Hi everyone, this is Miss Wilson, and I'm going to cover how to cite a book source on this video. And so I've looked up Friday Night Lights, and we've got several different options. We've got the movie, we've got all kinds of seasons and stuff like that. I'm going to actually show you how to cite a couple of those things. But what we want to do is look at, this is the Audible audiobook. Let me find the paperback here. And there we go. So this is the edition of the book that I have. I'm on Amazon.com. So Friday Night Lights. And as you know, if you've watched a previous video, we always start with the author. So we have the author listed underneath. I don't know if you guys can see that very well. Let's see if I can make it bigger. But we have the author listed underneath here. There's some other information that you can find right here on Amazon. Also, if you have the physical copy of the book, you can look right inside the cover in those first 2 or 3 pages. They will typically have the author, the title, as well as the publisher, which is important. Also the date of publication. So that's important as well. And you'll find those usually on the first 3 or 4 pages of any book in the fine print, okay? The publisher is usually kind of in a easy to find spot with bigger font, but sometimes the copyright date is in the really tiny fine print, okay? So let's look and see. We've got some information. I'm going to pull everything directly from Amazon. You can find, so if you look further down on Amazon, once you click on the actual product itself, you can scroll down and they will have some product details here, some interesting information. So if you're looking for that publisher, you can usually find it right down here when you go under product details. That's helpful information, as well as a publication date. Good to know. So again, if you've watched a previous video about MLA format or APA format, you know that the things I've just pointed out, author, title, publisher, date, things like that, those are all important when we are citing sources. So now I'm going to exit this screen share, and I'm going to set up a basic example for you, and I will post this on Canvas. And I'm going to pull up a Microsoft Word document, screen share now, and actually cite it live on Microsoft Word. So here I am. I've got my book in front of me. So I showed you what book I'm citing on Amazon, but I've also got the physical copy here. I'm going to go with Bissinger. And looks like he does spell it with an I, comma H-G. This will uniquely be the same in MLA as well as APA. I'll show you both. Let's say his first name was Howard. If it is, I don't know what his first name actually is. If it's in MLA, we spell out the first name. If it let's say it was Howard or whatever. With APA, no matter what, we abbreviate it. So it's already abbreviated. So even with MLA this time, I'm still just going to do it the way that it appears. Friday Night Lights. And since that is the name of a full-length book, just as if it was a movie or a website or a magazine or something like that, it's a full-length item here. It's going to be in italics, okay? We italicize names of books. I tell students to go ahead and make a habit of setting your font to Times New Roman for most college essays. Hopefully my font didn't just freeze up on me. There it goes, Times New Roman. That's just a good rule of thumb to go ahead and get into that practice. I've got my font set to 24 right now so that you can kind of see what I'm typing. But as you know, you would be setting your font to 12, okay? So Friday Night Lights. And what's the next thing we need to do? So I've got the Friday Night Lights title, but actually, if you look inside the cover, at the full title, it's Friday Night Lights, A Town, a Team, and a Dream. So technically, I will accept it with just the Friday Night Lights. That's fine with me. But technically, and you'll see this a lot when you get into academic books, you would have the full title here. So this is a colon, right? That's anytime you have a brief title and then some kind of longer description, and then we have the rest of it. Note, this is important because a lot of academic books, academic articles, things like that, the author will have kind of a catchphrase at the beginning of the title, then they'll have something else behind it, and so that's where you want to bring that colon in there. If you're citing a textbook, for example, Sociology Today, they'll usually have Sociology Today if it's a sociology class or something, and then a colon, and then some other kind of description afterwards that's part of that title, like a subtitle is what it's called. Okay, so to be very technical, I am looking at the 25th anniversary edition, and so that might be important for a reader to know. It's published by DeCabo Press, And typically they used to want you to do the city and state. I'm going to double check to make sure that that's still the case. But either way, we have a few things that we need to print before that, okay? So a town, a team, and a dream. 25th anniversary edition. Da Cabo. Check my spelling here, make sure is it a Cabo with a B? It's Da Capo, excuse me, with a P. All right, so this will not be in italics, only the title of the book, okay? And we have the date. So the original date of publication, if you look at it, is 1990, but this 25th anniversary edition, the special edition that we're using, is actually it's actually 2015. With books, we saw something just a second ago on Amazon where it showed you August 11th, I think. Let me stop this share and move into the other share, and then we can double check that so that I'm not making things up. Yeah, they showed you August 11th as the actual date. With books, however, you are allowed to just only use the year, because most books, if you look inside the pages themselves, it only has copyright and it only gives you a year. It won't give you this specific of information. So we're fine to just use 2015 when we're citing a book. If you do go more specific, I'm not going to penalize in any way. I don't think any professor would, but I'm just letting you know that for books, typically just the year is fine. Let me pause really quick there. Okay, so now I'm going to go really quickly into a screen share of the Purdue OWL. So when you go to the OWL at Purdue, which is where I'm at, you would look, they always have these ads that I know are just aggravating. It's hard to pause the videos or turn them off and get them to quit agitating us. You can go into the Purdue OWL, and then you can look at research and citation. So they'll always have this left-hand toolbar over here for you to make choices. Research and citation. They've got APA style, which we will look at in just a minute. They've also got MLA style. Once you get into MLA style, you've got some basic introduction, basic overviews, and then some real specifics, formatting and style guide. That's what I always go straight to. What is it that I'm trying to cite? I look down their list of choices, and then I go through to get the format, okay? And they have changed this recently every few years. So I graduated from college in 2011. And basically was finished with most of my research work by 2009. So as you can imagine, between that time and now, these formats have gone through several changes. Not usually anything too major, but enough that it's kind of like if you've seen any previous examples. So I'm under books right now. If you've had a teacher who taught you slightly differently, it's probably because the version that he or she was taught truly when they were in college was maybe a little bit different. Okay, so it goes through updates. But anyway, I'm under books. The Purdue OWL is going to keep the latest updates for you to access. But remember that the concepts always stay the same. I always teach students they've got all this deep information here. I always teach students with the basics. So go down, even if you see when you're on Purdue a bunch of other stuff, go to where it says basic book format, or if you're in one of these other tabs, basic websites, basic, if you can start with the basic, whatever they have as the basic example, and build up and get more practice and then advance it from there. That's the best way to do it, or at least that's the best way I have found to teach. So here's what they want. Last name, first name, that's for the author. Title of the book. City of publication, I'll come back to that in a second. The publisher and the publication date. That's what we need, okay? Note, and this is funny, the city of publication should only be used if the book was published before 1900, if the publisher has offices in more than one country, or if the publisher is unknown in North America. So if it's a publisher that is foreign, if it's a publisher that is international, they got several offices all over the world or whatever, then they're advising us that's when we need to include the city of publication. Otherwise, we're okay just to leave it off. Let me show you a couple examples, and then I'm actually going to look that up for this book to make sure. So book with one author, which is what we have. Gleich, James, Chaos, Making a New Science. Penguin, 1987. We found that so far, right? Like so far we have Bissinger, HG, Friday Night Lights, A Town, a Team, a Dream, the Da Capo Press, and then the year 2015. We have all of that so far, and we even added information about the specific edition, which is something that's helpful for your teacher. If there's more than one edition out there, it is helpful for you to tell your teacher which edition you are using, and so that's why we added that in, okay? So I am looking inside the actual cover here. Looks like they are located in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Let me see if I see anything that indicates it's foreign or printed outside of the country. I don't, okay? So, again, I'll show you kind of this inside cover. I'll stop my screen share and just kind of show you my inside cover of the book here. Let me see if I can turn my camera on and kind of show you. This is the fine print inside of the book. It's probably coming through kind of blurry. I don't have a very good webcam these days, but it's that fine print page where you can kind of look and see some of the ins and outs of your book. Let's go back now to the Microsoft Word document where I am working on my citation. It's got 25th anniversary edition, DeCabo Press, and then the last thing it advises me is 2015 for this book. That's it. So now I'm going to do my spacing, tab, and basically the way you achieve this, it looks like I'm on maybe 1.5. Ideally, I want to do double spacing on my line spacing. So you go to paragraph here, double spacing for my lines. That's how that's going to look, okay? I want to make sure I cover a couple of other ins and outs if you run into it. So remember, Purdue OWL has that extra rule printed for you that if it's a foreign publisher or outside the country or something like that, or published before 1900, you need to also include the city. So if it was in London, let's say, we would have London right here, London, DeCabo Press or whatever, okay? You're not going to run into that too much, I don't think, because most of the work you're going to do for professors is going to be current. And you may take some global studies classes. I hope you do. But a lot of the work that you do find published, you may find some that are there's tons of foreign authors who contribute academic works. But most of the stuff, I'm guessing, you are going to find within the U.S. Okay, so let's try now with APA. Okay. And before we start, I'll go ahead and get started, and then we're going to go to the Purdue OWL again. So this is MLA up here. This is APA. We're going to go Bissinger. And remember, MLA likes for us to spell out the names of the authors, but he only has initials anyway. APA requires that we only use initials. Remember that with APA, the date comes next in a parentheses. We did have August 11th on Amazon, so if you had included 2015, August 11th or whatever, I would be fine with that. But with books, they're only worried about the year anyway, and that's usually all you have access to. Now we need the title of it, and remember the title of the book. Looks like I forgot a comma back there. I got a town, comma, a team, a dream. Remember that for both MLA and APA, with short articles, we would use quote marks in MLA and nothing for APA. With the length, something that's of length, such as a book, a full-length movie, a television series, a website, a magazine, a newspaper, we italicize everything, okay? And remember that even though APA lowercases the names of like short titles, it has regular capitalization when it's the name of a book or something that's longer, okay? So let me show you here. So this is the starting point for our APA format, right? Now we got to figure out what order does all of this extra stuff go in, okay? The DeCabo Press, we've already got the 2015, or is there anything else that I need, okay? So I'm going to stop this share and go into Purdue OWL again. All right, so now I'm going to go back to the OWL at Purdue. So now here's what I did, just so you can see. I'm at the Purdue OWL, but this time I went into the APA research and citation. Then I chose APA, and then they got all these choices, and I'm at books. Remember, even if they have some other stuff ahead of it, here they really don't. But always look for something that says basic format to help you get started, okay? So I've got author, AA, check. We already took care of that. Year of publication with parentheses around it, check. We already got that. Title of work in italics. It's got a colon, capital letter also for the subtitle. Remember how they've done this? They're actually showing us that they want the rest of this lowercase. That's kind of new, but I will do so. I'm going to follow that advice, okay? And then we need the publisher name, the DOI if it's online. If it's not online, we're just going to go straight with the publisher. So check this out. Stoneman, R, 2008, Alexander the Great, A Life in Legend, Yale University Press. So they've kept the same information as MLA, real basic. They've just changed the format to fit APA style. So let me stop this share, go back to my Microsoft Word document. And what I'm showing you guys is that as teachers, we have to look things up sometimes too. So previously, they did keep normal capitalization for links of books. Looks like they've updated that, and this was as of 2019, so about a year or so ago. Now we have Da Capo Press. And it looks like we're done. Again, if you want to, and I advise going ahead and being a little more thorough, if it's a certain edition of the book, you can go ahead and add that in. Would I count it wrong if you didn't? If you left this part out, I would not count it wrong. I would count it right. I would give you credit because, again, you're following that basic format. As we get more advanced, sometimes, oh, that's a nice trick right there. If you notice, when I hit tab, everything moved. If you run into that same problem with Word, what you need to do is hit enter. You can't see my keyboard, but I'm going to hit enter, and then I'm going to hit tab, and that separates the lines so that you can actually get the hanging indent that they want. Okay. So again, if you don't have the 25th anniversary edition, that will not penalize, but you are encouraged to try to include a little bit of extra information if there's a version or an edition or something like that with the book. So let me label these. This is MLA. This is APA. And there's a few other ins and outs. So for example, if you had a second author, that does come up sometimes. Let me show you the advice on the OWL at Purdue. So it gets a little hairy there. And my argument as a professor myself, and having worked with a lot of different departments, not just English professors are usually the pickiest. We are the most picky when it comes to this stuff. History professors are pretty picky also, but a lot of your other disciplines, probably the American, if you're taking psychology, you might have a professor who, this is APA, American Psychological Association. They might be kind of picky, but a lot of your other classes, if they ask you for an essay, they're usually not going to be quite as picky as we are. And that's why I'm, again, focusing on the basics. I know many of you might be majoring in, other stuff where you don't expect to be writing a whole lot of papers. But look at how they have lists here of what to do. Edited book with no author, okay? Just go with the editor instead, okay? Edited book with an author or authors, okay? Here's what to do. Translation, here's what to do, okay? Might be a little scary looking at some of this, but look at how we have something that's from like Plato, 1989. Plato lived before that, okay? So he was from several thousand years ago in Greece. 1989 is a newer year, so that's already a hint to the teacher that this might be a translation of something. Symposium. Now they have in parentheses, aha, this 1989 version was translated by these guys. Hackett Publishing Company. Original work published when? Oh, wow, way back in the day. Okay, you see what I'm saying? So they have ways it still follows the basic format. We got the author, we got the date, we got the title, and then you start adding this extra information. One piece of advice I give students when you are citing sources in general, the concepts and the elements you need are always the same. No matter what, we need to identify the author. Or if there is no author, we need to go to the next item, okay? We always need to have the date if possible. We always need to have the title of whatever it is so that your professor can find it. If possible, to provide a little bit of publication information, we need to try to provide that too, okay? But those elements don't ever change. Those are always, no matter what type of style. Look at these other styles we have down here. Chicago style, AMA style. It doesn't matter. AMA is the American Medical Association, but if I click on that and start looking at it, I promise you, even though the format looks a little different, they still want to know who the author is. They still want to know what the title is. They still want to know when it was published, date. They still want to know publishing information if you have it. All of the elements that you need to keep track of when you're doing research are the same. Sometimes if it's this odd type of work or whatever, you're going to have extra things that you provide information about. Edition other than the first, for example. This is another edition. See how they want you to put the extra edition here? They want parentheses around it. I need to add that in my own, okay? I'm trying to give you guys just general guidance on how to do this without overwhelming you, without scaring you. My argument as a professor is this, from like literally 10 years worth of experience as a teacher and having taught in a lot of classes and worked with a lot of other professors. If you can get the basics down, the basic examples down, your professor will be so happy with you. And they usually, like 90% of the time, will give you a full 100% on that portion of the grade. Trying to get more complex, they realize is a little bit challenging, especially with the fact that these things change and are updated constantly. So if you focus on the basic elements first, which is what I teach in a 101 class, if you take me for 102, we get a little bit more in depth. Most of your professors are going to be super pleased and will give you full points for all of that. If you do have a professor who wants more, you know where to come. You know where your resource is, okay? Come to the Purdue Owl and look down the list of examples and find one that kind of fits as close as possible to what it is you're dealing with, okay? So, I do want to point out one more thing. If you're dealing with a chapter, again, I'm focusing on the basics here. As you get more advanced, sometimes, like let's say if we're focusing only on chapter 5 of something, you treat a chapter just as you would treat an article inside of a newspaper. So with MLA, you put quote marks around that article. With APA, you don't, but you would treat it in the same way. So notice they've got authors, year of publication, title of chapter. So if you look at one of my previous videos, we were looking at like title of the article, right? And then you put the title of the work in italics or whatever. They want you to include page numbers of the chapter and the publisher. I'm assuming if you, as we cite the source, that you're going to be all over the place, not just chapter 5 of Friday Night Lights. It might even be a question that started with chapter 5, but you're probably going to be flipping throughout the whole book, pulling information from here and there. So we really, at this point, only need to just cite the whole book. Same with elements of style, okay? And I can probably cite elements of style for you guys on a different video. So this is, here you have it. This is how to do MLA and APA citations. And then I'll show you shortly how to do the in-text citations for both of those.